tonight on the Final Play.
Throw to Hill, and he's into the end zone for a touchdown.
The Saints beat down the Bears to make it 5 straight wins despite an uncomfortable ending to the game.
Honestly, we left a lot of points off the board.
We've got reaction from the team and analysis from Deuce McAllister.
They're a talented team. I mean, and that's the biggest thing, you know.
In college football, Joe Burrow's offensive prowess was on display. Tulane fails to crack the top 25, and the Pelicans look to butt their way into being taken seriously.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Final Play, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, built Ford tough, and by Ron Austin Law.
Welcome into the Final Play. I'm Juan Kincaid. No Drew Brees, no Alvin Kamara, no Jared Cook, no problem. The Saints made their way back to Chicago today with a depleted roster on offense and a heavy reliance on their defense and special teams to lead them to their 5th straight win and their 5th consecutive victory over the Bears. Sean Vazan gets a start tonight from the Windy City.
Let's make it 5, as in 5 straight wins for the Saints without Drew Brees. On Sunday, the Bears were supposed to be their biggest threat yet. Instead, they were just the Saints' latest victim in their 36-18 victory.
I was proud of how we played, and it was a good win.
And all 3 phases contributed to this one. Let's start with the offense, who was without Alvin Kamara and Jared Cook. Still, they produced. After a slow start, things got rolling. Teddy Bridgewater bounced back with a smooth, steady effort Sunday. He finished 23 of 38 for 281 yards and 2 touchdowns. And most importantly, no interceptions. He even sprinkled in 2 big plays, one early in the 3rd quarter to Ted Ginn Jr. and the other to Michael Thomas in the 4th. The Saints needed Latavius Murray to step up on Sunday, and he delivered with his best game as a Saint. Murray muscled his way to 119 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He's got the ability to cut back and feel a run, maybe being over-pursued. He's got speed, and so he had a handful of those cuts today that, you know, he saw a hole, he felt something, and I thought he ran with power, but he also ran with speed.
It was a physical game, and I think we knew we wanted to establish, you know, an identity, you know, especially up front, and they did that, moving the line of scrimmage, creating a new line of scrimmage.
That was the overall tone post-game. None of their offensive success would have been possible without the dominance of the offensive line.
When you can rush for 150 yards against a defense like that, and you can throw the ball for over 250 yards on a defense like that, it speaks highly of the guys up front. You know, they're the ones who are making all of this happen. They're opening the rush lanes for the runners to run the ball. They're giving me time to sit back there and get the ball to our playmakers. So I think those guys don't get enough credit.
As the second half went on, I thought clearly we outrushed them. We won that battle up front. That was significant. You win that, you're going to win most of the games.
Defensively, what else can you say? They dominated. They sacked Mitchell Trubisky twice and allowed just 17 rushing yards. They also forced 2 takeaways, with Von Bell and A.J. Klein recovering fumbles. And with each stop, the boo birds from the Bears faithful came raining down.
You know, you got another play called dead after Von recovers a fumble and somehow he's down. Could have led to another defensive touchdown. These are just random suggestions of help, I guess, of how we can get better. Again, it doesn't matter who we're playing. We'll take our 11 versus 12 or 11 versus 13 or whatever it is against anybody.
The final score could have been even more dominant had it not been for some spotty special teams play. They began with a bang, literally, when J.T. Gray blocked an early punt for a safety. But later, they gave up a 102-yard kickoff return, which gave the Bears an early lead. And the usually reliable Will Lutz missed 2 field goals. Plus, a Deontay Harris punt return for a touchdown was called back on a holding penalty, but the flag was something Sean Payton strongly disagreed with.
I thought the call at the end of the first half on the punt return was terrible. It should have been a touchdown, but I was proud of how we played.
In the end, it didn't matter. The Saints were shorthanded and still whipped the Bears team that was supposed to give them trouble. Now they head back to New Orleans 6-1, an improbable thought when Brees went down in L.A.
I knew that, you know, it was going to be a challenge for us these past couple of weeks. You talk about 3 out of 5 wins come against 3 playoff teams from last year. So to do that, and 2 of them being on the road, that's pretty impressive. It speaks highly of this team. It's all about the team. We're preparing each week. We're trusting our preparation. We're going out there on the football field and just letting it rip.
We now welcome our own Deuce McAllister, Saints Hall of Famer. Deuce McAllister. Deuce, with the way that offensive line was playing today, did you almost miss it? Did you want to get back out there? I mean, they were running behind some big holes today.
Now, that's a game you would want to itch to get in as a running back just because as a lineman, you're like, hey, look, let us lay on these guys. They can't slow us down. And we knew going into the game to match up Khalil Mack and Floyd, how they could be pass rushers. But this turned into a battle as far as just running the ball, and they couldn't stop them.
Were you expecting this dominant of an effort by the offensive line? I mean, by the second half, it was almost like the Bears were waving a white flag a little bit.
I agree with you. I mean, because anything that they really wanted to do outside, there was 5 runs that I didn't like, and they were the outside toss type of plays. I mean, but even when they ran outside zone and power or counter, it's positive yards. They had the bend. They hit them early with the bend plays. And, I mean, it was just, I was like, man, that's 4 or 5 yards of cap. And so it turned into a game where, hey, look, it set up the play action. They were able to hit Teddy down the field a couple times. And so, I mean, it was just something to see.
Bit of a throwback because that run set up the pass because Teddy was very effective in play action. I thought he was smooth again. I thought he had a nice bounce-back effort from last week in Jacksonville. But I think he was what he needed to be, which was clean, efficient, made the plays he needed to make.
He made the plays that he needed to make. A lot of help early on, block punt. The defense was, again, outstanding, punching the ball out, getting their hands on balls. They probably should have had at least 2 interceptions. Again, Marcus Williams and Von Bell, they kind of fighting over a ball. But, I mean, it was impressive to hold them the running yards. Chicago hadn't run the ball, and you come back off of a bye week and you still can't run the ball. I mean, man, the only negative, the injuries.
Yeah.
That's what you're upset about.
Especially the circumstance, right? I mean, end of the game was pretty much decided at that point. To possibly lose the starting corner, that hurts.
Definitely hurts. I mean, and he went to plant and his leg just slipped. And so we'll kind of have to see how bad it is. JT Gray early in the game, Patrick Robinson early in the game, you kind of lose those guys, and so you probably would have taken them out because you did take out Cam Jordan, A.J. Klein, and Demario Davis, but there's only so many guys that you can play, and so, man, it dampers a win that you had just a little bit because of the injuries.
And I'm not sure Bears offense, or anything special, but it certainly felt like Saints defense stole their will a little bit. They looked like they had no answer for about 3.5 quarters of that game.
Well, I think at 5 minutes left in the game, they had 85 total yards.
Right.
Total yards.
Right.
And so, they ended up, getting obviously a lot of yards there in the fourth quarter, garbage yards. But, I mean, that Saints defense, they were showing looks. They were bringing pressures. Cam got a sack. He was inside. Von Bell was hitting the quarterback. You had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson hitting the quarterback. So a lot of different guys was able to get in the backfield. Mario Edwards one time. And so when they were showing pressure, that offensive line would squeeze, and they were leaving the defensive end free. Saints are too good. Yeah. They're going to get to the quarterback every time.
What do you think of Sean Payton? I think this whole stretch has been some of his best coaching, but I thought today game plan was masterful, timely play calling as well. I know you had a couple plays you didn't like early in the first half, but by the second half, it felt like he took over as a play caller.
Well, he took over as a play caller, and it was really because they were able to run the ball. And so some of the things that he gave you, it really helped them. And so, I had said it on Friday. It would be his most impressive regular season victory. And as a play caller, it was something to see.
And last question here. Here we are. We were talking after the LA game in fear a little bit. We didn't know the status of Drew at that time. You can just feel the panic in the organization. Yet here we are. 5 weeks later, 5 straight wins. Man, it's improbable, but you know what? It really goes to show you just how deep and really just how talented this roster truly is.
They're a talented team. I mean, and that's the biggest thing. The only question we had, injuries would maybe be able to derail them just because you have so many guys now, young guys that are coming, having to step in and play. But, man, they got talent across the board.
We will have much more from Deuce McAllister beginning tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. with his Black and Gold Rewind. 5 p.m. comes a 2-minute drill, and then at 10:35, the Black and Gold Review Show. Get your questions in right now. Final Play app, Final Word feature, and tune in tomorrow night at 10:35. Still to come here on the Final Play, much more on the Saints. Chris Hagan jumps in to give us his unique perspective on the Black and Gold's performance today.
You're watching the Final Play.
It took an entire team effort to get the Saints past the Bears today, but as Chris Hagan points out, it was one particular drive that slammed the door on the Bears for good.
In a dominant win over the Bears, Coach Payton blamed himself and his play calling for not running away with the game sooner than they did. It became clear during the second half that the Saints were the superior team at the line of scrimmage, and their 11-play, 76-yard drive to give them a 26-10 lead solidified that notion. It started with a steady dose of Latavius Murray in the air and on the ground, but where Payton really started to show off was with the pitch from fullback Zach Line to utility man Taysom Hill.
You never rule anything out with Coach Payton. So if he puts something on the script, you better be prepared to run it. And Coach got creative with us, and it was a ton of fun.
The play gained 23 yards, and at that moment, it felt like the Saints offense could do whatever they wanted. So they did, and finished the drive with even more physicality. First, on a Latavius Murray burst up the middle to get them inside the 10. Then, another play drawn up for Hill and his combination of speed and power around the goal line. The type of play call that the third-string quarterback says no longer surprises him.
I kind of go into a game week with an expectation there's going to be something that Coach has up his sleeve, and they've done a great job of, just having a play designed that the defense isn't prepared for, and then having the right instinct of when to call it, and that's what we saw tonight.
That profound use of every skill set on the roster is the epitome of what has the Saints winning big, not only without Drew Brees, but without Alvin Kamara, Jared Cook, and Traquan Smith in Chicago. It's also a testament to how deep this team really is. Reporting on the Saints, I'm Chris Hagan for the Final Play.
Up next, LSU continues stacking up wins while Tulane and Nicholls stumbled out of the blocks. We'll recap a busy Saturday of college football coming up.
You're watching the Final Play.
When is enough actually enough when it comes to how big you win a game? The LSU Tigers, who average a college football best 50 points per game, only scored 36 in their win at Mississippi State yesterday. It's a win that was never in doubt, but should the Tigers have performed better against the overmatched Bulldogs? Garland Gillen was there. He has a recap from Starkville.
The LSU Tigers could only muster 3 field goals and 3 red zone trips, holding on to a slim 9-7 lead. But then the defense stepped up, and the offense finally found its groove.
Plus, execution and communication. We can't speak enough about that, man. And when we do that, we should keep doing this for the remainder of the season.
The offense is not going to play great on fire every week. You just can't expect that. There's going to be a time where it's going to be raining and you're going to be on the road and the offense is not playing. That's where you got to play great defense, and I thought the defense did a phenomenal job today.
Joe Burrow racked up 4 touchdown passes in the contest, giving him a total of 29 for the 2019 campaign, setting a school record for most touchdown passes in a single season.
I think it just shows the amount of work we put in offseason. Game 7, we broke the touchdown record. We're going to have 2 guys break single season receiving touchdowns record here coming up. So, I think, it's obviously a great achievement for us, but, we still got 5 games left.
It was a testament to him, the receivers, the offensive line, the coaching. We're just getting started, though. We got a lot of football left, and I know Joe's not worried about records. I'll tell you, we're 7-0, and I think our team's a little upset about the way we played. I know our coaching staff is. I'm happy. I know I won't be as happy when I watch the film. There'll be some things to get done, but it's good for our football team. It'll get us hungry for next week.
All right, now we're joined by Brodie Miller of The Athletic. All right, 2 years ago on this field, LSU got embarrassed 37-7. Got a little retribution on this field this year. Beat them 36-13. Do you think Coach Orgeron, that was playing in his mind and the players' minds?
Absolutely. You talk to certain people around that building. There was no chance they were going to overlook this game leading ahead to Auburn because that game is very much on their mind. I mean, 2 years ago, that was near the height of people doubting Ed Orgeron. People saying, this isn't going to work. 2 years later, Ed Orgeron's stock couldn't be any higher right now. Number 2 team in the country, going into Auburn next week, and this team just came out and played a borderline complete game, even with the offense not looking perfect.
Speaking of that offense, all right, this is a new era that we're in. That we're talking about LSU struggling on offense. They still dropped 36 points on Mississippi State, and Burrow still threw 4 touchdown passes.
And that's the thing. I mean, I said they weren't going to overlook. I also don't think they really showed much or opened up the playbook much today. They were going to save some stuff for Auburn and Alabama. They weren't that worried about this Mississippi State team. So, you know, they put up 250 yards in the first half while not showing much at all, and it looked bad. And I think that's almost a sign of the change in the times, right? Is that 250 yards and 400 total in a game, that would have been fine last year. People have been pretty happy with that. But right now, Joe Burrow's going to the CBS post-game interview and saying, if we play like this, you'll lose to Auburn. So I think, overall, this offense played a solid game. It's just a sign of how much growth there's been.
Speaking of Burrow, he broke the single-season touchdown passing record at LSU in only 7 games. Yeah. I mean, obviously, most of the records that LSU holds single-season are going to get broken. How impressive is it Burrow already has broken this record in 7 games?
It's absurd, especially just compared to what he was looking like last year. I mean, he was a fine quarterback last year, but for him to make this jump from solid quarterback to a genuine Heisman frontrunner, there's really not much precedent for something like this. I mean, he's at a point now where I think it's pretty safe to say he's going to go down as like the number 1 or number 2 quarterback in LSU history.
He's talked about Auburn. That's the big game next week, and Joe Burrow said if they play like this, they're going to get beat next week. I think this team's ready for this game, though. Finally, the defense, I would say finally, but the defense completely shut down Mississippi State. I think LSU is going to be ready for this game next week because it's back in Tiger Stadium, and it's a whole team effort with this team out here on this field, and I think you'll see the same next week.
I couldn't agree more, and I don't even think finally is the wrong word, because I think, Grant Delpit and Jacoby Stevens, it's been this balancing act for about a year now of trying to figure out, who do you want in the box to attack, who do you want back in coverage, and it seems like they're really figuring out a good balance there. And Jacoby Stevens admitted this is the best game that those two played at the same time together, and I think that really matters. You're seeing Christian Fulton get his first interception this season. This defense is playing its best football right now, right when LSU's going to need it, and you can trust this offense from a week-to-week basis. So, yeah, I think there's validity to that.
All right, Brodie Miller from The Athletic. Thanks, bud.
Thank you.
It was supposed to be a huge night for Tulane, 5-1, and taking on 5-1 Memphis on their home field on national television, knowing that a win would likely put them into the top 25. All of that seemed a bit too much for the Greenies to handle as they came crashing down, 47-17 loss to the Tigers. It was a game that Tulane was never in after the first quarter. The difference in the game was Memphis running back Kenneth Gainwell, whose 104 yards rushing and a touchdown were topped by his 203 yards receiving and 2 more touchdowns. The loss snapped Tulane's 4-game win streak. And over in Houston, Nicholls left its offense on the bus as they were shut out by Sam Houston State 17-0. The 9th-ranked Colonels couldn't get the offense going, in part because they couldn't hold on to the ball either. Turning it over 3 times, it was the Colonels' first Southland loss of the season. So here is next week's schedule. Southeastern was off this weekend. They'll be back in action next week at Houston Baptist. The bigger ones in Baton Rouge, a pair of Tigers meeting at 2:30 at Tiger Stadium, LSU and Auburn. Tulane will be on the road at Navy. Nicholls comes back to the Bayou to host Abilene Christian. Coming up, it's finally game week for the Pelicans. We'll take a look ahead to Tuesday night's season opener in Toronto.
Time now for your play of the week, sponsored by Ron Austin Law.
Our top play of Week 7 takes us back to our number 6 team, Edna Carr. Quarterback Leonard Kelly with a lovely touch on this pass, but it's the catch and toe tap by sophomore Edwin Joseph that makes this such a special play. An exclamation mark on the Cougars' 44-0 win over McMain. And here are our Player of the Week nominees. Slidell quarterback John Autry, 406 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and a win over Ponchatoula. Fountain Blue linebacker Colin Gagnon, 100-yard interception for a touchdown and a win over Mandeville. And John Curtis running back Corey Wren, 3 rushing touchdowns and a win over Jesuit. Go to fox8live.com/player to vote. Voting begins tomorrow. It ends on Wednesday. It is a wait-and-see situation for your Pelicans, waiting to see when Zion Williamson will come back from his injury, and waiting to see just how good this team will be with or without him. A perfect preseason gives the fan base a reason to be optimistic. Chris Hagan gives us his thoughts.
Success in the preseason isn't the end-all be-all, and head coach Alvin Gentry would be the first to tell you that they have a long way to go and a lot more to learn as a team. But that's not to take away from the strong basketball culture that's been growing in a positive direction with the Pelicans since David Griffin took over basketball operations back in April. What we've seen throughout the 5 preseason games is a lot of promise and potential. The Pelicans have the talent to be a playoff team in the West, and while they've been labeled young, there are enough veterans to steer the ship with Coach Gentry. Those would be guys like Drew Holiday, who's been given the reins to this team publicly. His intensity on the floor can rally anyone. For matters on and off the court, there's J.J. Redick, the sharpshooter the Pelicans hope will stretch the floor, an aspect of the team that's been missing for years. There's also Derek Favors, a steady center to shore up the front court and provide a solid defensive presence. But the guys that are going to draw the big crowds, the publicity, and that hype are in the team's youth. Zion Williamson is an instant star, and for those wondering how his game would translate to the NBA, we've seen that physically he is ready. But the test for him and other promising rookies like Nickeil Alexander-Walker is how they hold up in the long run. Unfortunately, already, we're seeing that for Zion, that may mean some sort of load management plan, even as a rookie. With slight setbacks to his left knee in the Summer League and right knee right now, it's safe to say that the former Duke Blue Devil and his body will probably need some extra attention throughout the year, likely due to his size and explosiveness. As we all know, the NBA regular season is a grind, a long haul of 82 games where night in and night out, Zion in this rookie class will have to be ready mentally and physically to go up against some of the best, especially in the Western Conference. But when this team does find itself and its identity, again, we've seen what they can do with the talented depth on the roster. The Pelicans have been very careful not to put too much on their plate in terms of playoff expectations, while also being careful not to overload Zion Williamson. But at the end of the day, wins are the name of the game. David Griffin was brought here to win. The key will be winning while learning. Reporting on the Pelicans, I'm Chris Hagan for the Final Play.
And be sure to pull up the Fox 8 Overtime podcast right now, on demand, episode 88. The Athletics' Will Guillory joins me to break down the Pelicans' season ahead, and we'll talk about them managing expectations this season. Again, you can find the podcast, fox8live.com, the Final Play, and Tiger Huddle app, and wherever you listen and download your podcast. And that's our show for tonight. For all of us here at Fox 8, I'm Juan Kincaid. We hope you'll join us again next Sunday night for the Final Play.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been The Final Play, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, built Ford tough, and by Ron Austin Law.